So hey guys, and welcome back to another predictions video, and in today's video I'm predicting the Ocampo versus Fundora fight. If you are new around here though and you haven't yet subscribed, please do so, like the video if you do indeed like the video, and let's get straight into it. So, going into this fight, Ocampo is 34-1 with 22 KOs, and Fundora is 19-0-1 with 13 KOs. This fight is for the WBC Interim World Super Welterweight belt, in which Fundora currently holds. Ocampo's last fight was a win via KO in round 1 versus Rodriguez, and Fundora's last fight was a win via stoppage in round 9 versus Lubin. It was Lubin, and it was an amazing fight. I mean, Showtime had it as a fight of the year contender, so that kind of shows how good of a fight it was. Ocampo has had one world title fight, which was his only loss, which was via KO in round 1 versus Spence Jr. back in 2018. But since then has been on a 12-fight win streak. And I mean, it's completely fair. I mean, if you look at where Spence Jr. is now, it's completely understandable that yes, you've had a defeat, and it was a while ago. So I'd imagine. Well, I mean, he's been on a 12-fight win streak since then. So I imagine things have changed a lot since then. So going into this fight, Fundora is 6 foot 5.5, and whilst Ocampo is 5 foot 10.5, and so that is kind of like the big factor in this fight of like there's a big reach advantage, and so you don't really know what to expect with these kind of fights. It can be more like if say Fundora can keep his range and just work the jab down and just pick a shot, then that can lead to a knockout or maybe just a decision win if he just wants a jab for the whole night, keeping behind his jab. But if Ocampo, well, he's going to have to go in really aggressive if he wants to be able to do that. And I mean, sometimes they come in with more strength the smaller they are, and so you don't really know. It's one of them fights where it puts you in a position where you're not really sure on what's going to happen, because there's been fights like this. I mean, I remember the Pitters versus Aziz one, which was only a couple of weeks ago for the English belt, and I mean, I predicted that wrong, but I so it kind of, and that was like a big height difference, so it can kind of vary of what will happen in that kind of position, but it doesn't happen loads. That's why it's always fun to see when it does happen. And so there's something to look forward to in this fight is the fact that they both have a high KO percentage, in Fundora's being 65% and Ocampo being 62.86%. And so that shows that they are definitely got knockout ability. They've both got the power, especially for the taller guys. Sometimes it can be harder to get the power, but if you can line up your shots well, it is, as Fundora shows, it is doable. And so it just makes it an interesting fight. So Fundora has made his pro debut back in 2016, whilst Ocampo made his in 2012. So Ocampo's definitely the more experienced fighter, but isn't too much older than him. I believe it's only 4 years older, so not like a massive age difference or anything. He's just made his debut 4 years earlier, which I suppose makes sense in a way. Also on this card is Adames versus Montiel for the WBC Interim World Middleweight belt, in which I think Adames will win via KO in round 5. I think it'll be relatively simple for him. Montiel's had the 5 defeats already. I think it's just another learning fight for Adames, and I believe it will go on to probably bigger things after this fight. Maybe Fundora. I believe they're all in the same weight division. Well, no, they're not. They're in similar weight divisions. So I mean, you never know; these things could happen. But that he's an interesting fighter, a good fight to look out for in the future. Going back to the Fundora fight, Fundora is the favourite, and I think that Fundora will win by a KO in round 4. I think it'll be relatively, how do I put this, relatively easy in a way, because I think Fundora is just going to be able to continuously work him down, and he is one of the fighters that, even though he is quite tall, he doesn't mind fighting on the inside if needed, but he does pick his shots well, so I believe that will be his deciding factor, and yeah, like the 65% KO ratio shows, I believe he'll be able to get another KO, as I believe it will be still a good fight though, because I think Fundora will probably start coming towards him and then just get caught with something, which you have to do, but it's a very risky thing to have to do. That's why it's always a tough fight when you're fighting a guy taller, especially that much taller than you. Um, but for Fundora, it leaves him in a very good position. I mean, he'll be remaining the WBC interim world super welterweight champion, and so if he wants to, technically he'll remain the mandatory challenger for Jamel Charlo. Will that happen? I don't know. Possibly he is. He'll be the WBC mandatory challenger. So that could happen. If not, I've put Castano as a possible thing. Charlo's last opponent that he just beat. I think if he wants one more final step up before he has a world title, just to prove to himself that he's ready for that, then Castano would be a good fight. Or Suzuyu, which I think will also be a good fight. I believe he is a number one ranked fighter for one of the boxing officials. I don't know which one, but I think either of them fights would be very impressive fights as well. But of course, I believe he'll probably be looking at the Charlo fight as the fight that he wants. But I mean, he's still got time. He's not that old. I believe he's only 24, so he's still got a good amount of time to take his time if he needs to. So yeah, that's why he's an interesting, fun fighter for the future. But yeah, that is it for today's video. Hope you did enjoy. Like the video if you didn't, like the video, subscribe if you're new, and thanks for watching.